Hey guys, this is Ray, owner of Double R Diesel and DRP Motorsports. Welcome back to my shop and my channel. Today I wanted to do a question and answer kind of series video. Um, you guys have been really great about commenting on the YouTube videos that I have posted recently. You know, a lot of discussions been made about prospects of deleting. Can you delete? General truck questions, uh, just basic knowledge, um, things that you could do, things that you can't do. So I picked out some comments that was posted in the recent videos, and I decided to bring these comments up and make a video discussion about them. So getting right into it. Somebody had made a comment about the cost of emissions parts, replacement parts. Basically making a comment about the recent video that I did, in which I basically showed you guys how much these parts were from an online website that sells Mopar parts. Um, yes, I'm sure they're marked up quite a bit. You probably can look in different places and possibly find a better deal. Some things you can get from Cummins and you don't actually have to get through a Ram dealer. Some things you can't get through Cummins and you have to get through a dealer. So, it can vary. I just use the online dealer website for Mopar parts as just as a benchmark. And really and truly, for us that know how to work on trucks and that sort of deal, we'll probably, shop around and find the better deal. But for the average consumer, most people don't know, all the sources that, where you can go to try to find parts. And most people will end up going to a dealer not only to get the parts, but also get the installation done of the replacement emission parts for a diesel truck. And that's where it really gets expensive, paying that labor as well. Um, Somebody else made a comment about if a vehicle had a useful life sticker or a piece of equipment had a useful life sticker on the emission system, can you remove the emission system past useful life, whether it has a sticker or not? I actually never heard of having a sticker for a useful life marked on a piece of equipment. But anyway, that's the whole point of some of the video discussion that I've been doing is, the EPA does define useful life for emissions components on a vehicle or a piece of equipment for that matter. And it's rated for so many miles, so many years, so many hours. And it's basically a manufacturer's kind of a threshold. So basically what those useful life definitions apply to is a manufacturer has to build a emissions related part to last that period of time, whatever that useful life is defined. And after that period, then, the manufacturer is kind of off the hook, so to speak, for the ability of those emission components to clean the exhaust, whatever. It leaves the consumer out in the dark, obviously. So, the answer is legally no. If you consider or figure out that the emissions components on your vehicle or your piece of equipment is past its quote unquote useful life as it's defined in the CFR by the EPA, you still can't remove it and delete it legally. There's no black and white anywhere that says that you can do that. So, a lot of people may do it. Don't blame you for doing it, kind of, but is it legal? No, you can't. Um, Somebody else was mentioning in a comment about getting the DPF cleaned on your truck or your diesel equipment, and that is a very good valid point. You can get a DPF clean. There's machines out there that can do it. Um, there's people that have cut them open themselves and washed them out. That can be done and weld it back together. But the problem is there's more than just the DPF getting clogged. In some cases, quite oftentimes, the DPF, the element inside of it, can crack. It can break down. It can, disintegrate to a point to where cleaning it will not fix it. And that's quite often the case. It has to be replaced. So, and obviously, when you get it replaced, that's a big expense. Cleaning is not cheap either, because cleaning equipment that's made to do it is not cheap, and people that do it have to charge accordingly. Somebody else said, says right here, says delete, 6-7 comments no matter what you do yourself, no shops required. Yeah, that's right. So, you can take matters in your own hands if you can get the parts and equipment, the tuning, the devices to do it with. You don't have to carry it to a shop, and probably that's where most of it's being done now at home. People are sourcing it from outside the U.S., getting it shipped into the U.S., and then they're doing it at home. So yeah, if you feel so inclined and you need to do it, by all means, do what you got to do. I mean, I can't say, yay or nay to that. Somebody was talking about DEF, actual diesel exhaust fluid, and how that is a problem up north where temperatures get really, really cold. Particularly in, we're not going to talk about Canada, but we'll talk about Alaska since it's U.S. soil. Yeah, if you're up in Canada and it gets well below zero, I mean way down in the negatives, 30, 40 below or even more, yeah, I don't care what you got going on, the DEF is probably going to freeze. And when it freezes, then you got big problems. I mean, it'll expand, it'll break, it'll bust the tank, it'll disintegrate the modules, the lines, the injectors. So it's a big problem. And Alaska is part of U.S. soil. So this brings up an argument, that some of this stuff just simply because of geographical location will not work. And that's an argument that I think needs to be made to our government, among many. Somebody was talking about heavy equipment. This is a problem for heavy equipment as well. Heavy equipment, most pieces of heavy machinery use a diesel engine, and they have to have the same kind of after treatment products on them as equipment, as well as the on-road vehicles. And yeah, it's a problem. I grew up in the logging industry. My dad was a logger, and prior to him passing away back in 2015, I was still helping him in the business. And we started, getting pieces of equipment on the job that had a DPF, had a SCR, had all that jive on it. And yeah, it was a problem, because just like, an on-road vehicle, when there's a problem with a sensor or something goes wrong with any emission component, it goes into a limp mode as well. And most of those machines wouldn't run past an idle. So, I mean, what good is a machine running an idle? You can't use it. And time is money for anything that's, off-road or even on-road for that matter. I mean, there's people who are trying to use this stuff to make a living. There's no time for downtime, much less the cost of repairing and replacing it. So yeah, that's a very valid point. Somebody was asking and made a comment about, is what the EPA has defined as coming out of the tailpipes of diesel engines. Is that a true science? Is the data that they claim to use as far as saying that what a diesel puts out in terms of environmental impact in a negative way, is that true science? Is the science there to truly back it up? I don't know. I kind of wonder, any data that's collected can be skewed, can be stretched. It might not even be nowhere near the truth at all. They can take data and publish it and put their stamp on it and say, yeah, this is the truth. And, do they have true evidence to back up what their data claims, when they talk about the impact on the environment and when it comes to diesel emissions? I kind of question it myself. I think a lot of it's, it's the truth can be stretched. I'll just say this, that the claim is made that particularly diesels hurt the environment terribly, that diesel fumes will kill you. Yes, it can kill you, just like anything, any kind of internal combustion emissions. It can kill you if you're trapped, within a confined space. Yeah, you get carbon monoxide poisoning and all sorts of stuff. But um, my dad worked around heavy equipment all his life. And quite oftentimes he was just within a foot or two of, say, for example, a 453 Detroit engine running wide open, 2,300 RPMs all day long without a stitch of emissions equipment on that engine. I mean, just raw exhaust, and he breathed it in and day out. And the man lived to be 90 years old, and he didn't have any lung problems. So, you can make an argument either way. I know people who are sensitive to pollutants in the atmosphere have issues with the slightest bit of particulate or other things. So, I mean, it doesn't apply to everybody. But, as far as the science goes and how bad it is for everybody in general, it's kind of debatable. Oh yeah, so another person commented and was talking about what the EPA had done to them. This one guy said, I had the EPA show up and seize both my trucks, my wife's car, both my race cars over a video I posted gutting a DPF, and I reinstalled it on both my work trucks. I posted a video on how to do it in May 2020, and on February 20th, 2021, they showed up at my house and took my, you know what, took my wife's AMG that was bone stock, that was leased. Just come in there, like they were the brazen drug dealers and had just done the worst thing ever. Took their vehicles. He says he even took his wife's vehicle. And anyway, he said he did manage to get all his stuff back, but the government made him put the emissions equipment back on his work trucks and even his race cars, of all things. So that's crazy. I mean, hopefully it's not like that now, but in the past 4 years under the prior administration up in DC, I mean, yeah, they come guns a-blazing and they held people up at gunpoint and treated them like brazen criminals when they come in investigating emissions removal and defeat device sales. Someone brought up the argument about dealerships selling deleted vehicles. Well, I can tell you for a fact, a well-known dealership here in North Carolina that, I quite often view their website just to look and see what they got on the lot because I like looking at vehicles. But anyway, I've seen on this big dealership's website, big Ram dealer, probably one of the biggest in North Carolina, quite often I have seen deleted used trucks on their website for sale, and they've got an off-road disclaimer on it. So, I don't blame them, but, come on. It's, if you're going to get guys like me, then it applies to everybody. But then again, what's reality? There's a lot of things that goes on in this world that makes the world go round that's not exactly perfect, and get by on some emissions in cases like, with certain vehicles at certain times and trying to, just make an honest living. It is what it is. I'll just say that. Should these dealerships stop selling deleted vehicles? Well, they're not supposed to legally, but some do. Somebody brings up a comment and is talking about how much it costs to replace the emissions on a certain vehicle. And he said that he had an experience in which it cost $18,000 That's probably a semi truck. He says he bought the stuff used, but he had to replace it for $18,000. Good gracious! That's what I'm talking about, guys. The cost to replace this stuff is astronomical. Somebody asked and makes a comment about passing emissions inspections, and they said that they only have to pass a visual inspection. So, okay, so passing a visual inspection, you know, if all you got to do is pass a visual, you can have certain things that look like they're still on on your truck and but not be functional. Yeah, you probably could get away with that, but at some point in time, you might run into a situation where you're on the road. So, like you go out of state or out of county, and there is a DOT check, and you start doing some digging, and they see that tailpipe on your truck is sooty. It's going to be kind of hard to make them believe that you got all your emissions intact on your vehicle. Moving right along in that, somebody made the comment about the guy in New Jersey that had to put up a truck for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and New Jersey found out about it, and they made him take it down, and they actually they didn't confiscate it, but they basically give him an ultimatum, and either he get in big trouble or he surrendered the truck and have it crushed, and he chose to have it crushed, which is terrible. It don't make no sense, but it is what it is there too. Somebody asked about if somebody's already tuned their truck and it's deleted, what about getting it worked on? Well, dealers quite often are frowning on working on deleted trucks because they just don't want no hassle of dealing with a truck that's already been tuned. And, quite oftentimes that there's something to be done to a vehicle. They have to reprogram the ECM, or they have to hook up to the onboard diagnostics port on the truck and do a scan. And quite oftentimes these trucks that are programmed for run for deletes won't work with dealer software. In some cases, dealers are scared to have a deleted truck in the service department because they don't want somebody to show up and inspect them and, try to hit them up from working on actually deleting a truck. Small guys like me, I'll work on trucks all shapes and sizes. I don't delete trucks in my shop. I obviously can't tune for deleted trucks anymore, but if somebody brings the truck in, deleted or not, and it needs a set of injectors, or it needs a turbo or something on that line, as long as it's a stock replacement part, I have no problems doing it. Somebody asked, does deleting increase fuel economy? Yes, it does. And the reason why is when you program a truck for deletion, not only you're removing restrictions that hold an engine back, make it work harder, you're turning off post-injection on a diesel engine. Post-injection, try to simplify it, it's a fuel injection cycle that is only there to facilitate heating up a DPF and heating up a diesel oxidation catalyst so that your exhaust can scrub the exhaust better. And when you delete it, you can turn that extra fuel injection off because it's not actually used to power the engine or move the truck. You can disable that, and that saves fuel just in that alone. You also can play around with injection time in advance and actually get the engine to run much more efficiently and use a lot less fuel that way. Somebody asked about coming up for tuning for the ASIN via the Race Me Ultra or the MM3 tuner. Well, I think the software engineers that make those devices and makes the tuning software that I use to do that with, at some point in time, they're going to pick that up, but it's not here or there right now. So, there's other guys, other platforms that's doing it, but sooner or later we'll do it. Somebody brought up a comment about the EPA, that the EPA was actually putting out cash rewards for informants the past 4 years. I had no idea that was even the case, but it quite possibly could have been, because the EPA, when they investigated me, told me that someone had turned me in. Well, why would somebody want to turn me in unless they just really, really, really hated me? could have been for a cash reward. Never heard tell of that, but who knows with the government and how things are. We all know that the government does things that and gets away with things that we, the people, cannot get away with. Somebody talked about buying an older truck and how good it run and don't have the headaches with it. Yeah, you can find yourself a pre-emissions truck, 2007 or for as far as a Ram goes with a Cummins or older than the 2007. Yeah, if you can find one that's still in good shape and you can afford to pay for it because the prices of those trucks have increased quite a bit, yeah, get you one. You won't have to worry about some of this stuff that we have to deal with, the newer stuff. Somebody mentioned about me signing my paperwork with the EPA, and I had signed it under duress. And duress means, you're basically given no option. You're basically threatened into doing something. And yeah, that's quite true. I was threatened into doing something because if I didn't sign that paperwork, they would have filed criminal charges against me. So yeah, I did sign my paperwork under duress. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't you fight it? Well, I'm just one person and I'm not made of money. And when you try to fight the government, you got to have an endless supply of money. And basically all money does in that case is get you a big shot lawyer that only kicks the can down the road, doesn't make the problem go away. Somebody said, the consent agreement final order that I signed, was that even constitutional to begin with? Well, that's questionable. Did the EPA have the actual authority to enforce the Clean Air Act and make people like me sign that kind of paperwork? That's debatable. Somebody mentioned about stuff that's coming in from overseas or from up in Canada. Mainly Canada and China's where the delete stuff's coming from now. So yeah, that's where it's coming from. Basically all the reputable U.S. tuners here in the U.S. that's ever made a name for themselves or done anything of any consequence, yeah, they got shut down by the EPA. And what's left is stuff coming in from Canada and China. I know there's some reputable people up in Canada, but they're not all reputable. I can tell you that. And every time I log in the computer and look online, there's a new shop popping up somewhere selling delete parts. So, I mean, you don't know what you're getting when you're buying stuff from out of country now. I'm just being honest with you. The quality of the tunes, the quality of the hardware that you're installing on your truck, it's cheap, and you just don't know if you're causing yourself even more problems. Somebody made a comment about Chevron. It said, how can you be penalized for deleting because they say that Chevron overturned the ability to delete? No, it didn't. Chevron has not changed the fact that deleting or using a defeat device to delete your vehicle, emissions off your vehicle, it's still illegal, guys. Chevron did not fix that issue. I mean, Chevron has possibly opened up the door for some court cases that might make a difference. But no, Chevron in itself has not allowed us to be able to legally delete the emissions off a diesel vehicle. The thing that has to change moving forward, if we're ever going to be able to delete the emissions off anything for any reason, Section 203 of the Clean Air Act would have to be amended. There's a lot of YouTube videos out right now by a lot of people, and they're basically saying, since Trump signed executive order, since the EPA has been cut back, since Congress has taken up certain measures or certain bills or acts are being considered. All this stuff that's happened since Donald Trump took office, none of it, as of this point right now, makes deleting legal. The only way deleting will ever be made legal is if an amendment is made to Section 203 of the Clean Air Act. Until that happens, until something is written in where it talks about not tampering with emissions, not using defeat devices. Until something's written in there that says under certain circumstances you can, deleting is not going to be legal at all. Someone says, if they delete and they're not in the state of California, should they keep their old parts? Yeah, you never know what might happen in the future. So if you do delete your vehicle, please keep your old parts. Don't put it up on Marketplace or wherever, or sell it to the junk man to try to get a quick buck and recover some of your money. You never know when you might have to put that stuff back on. And I've already showed you in a prior video how much that stuff costs new from a dealer. It is ridiculous. So anyways, guys, I thought this would just be a good video to do, answer some questions based upon some comments that I've gotten already. Keep making the comments. I'll read them and I'll address them at some point in time with another question and answer video series. So as always, guys, thank you for following along. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you again soon.